didn't update it. You got to update it. You updated it. Now it works for a couple days, but shit. Now it's back to updating.
Well, and right now everything's constantly updating because everything is under freaking cyber attack right now. So
Oh shit, I didn't even think about that.
yeah, I
Wow.
mean everything's just constantly getting updated. Everybody's on edge trying to stay ahead of whatever nonsense is
Yeah,
coming around the corner. So
that's smart. I changed half of my passwords yesterday. I'm going to change the other half today. What I do is I use one of those apps that makes a random generator.
yeah.
But then I don't save it in the app. I move it to a secure location and then store it so I have them, you know. But
Mm.
I try not to use anything that would be from my brain because I mean, Facebook has so much information about me. If they wanted to guess my password, they know my dog's first name, my first cat's first name. You know what I mean?
So this is where two-factor or multi-factor authentication come in.
Does it? Yeah.
Yeah. So like the reality is that with some of the supercomputers that are out there, you can brute force a password without much difficulty. Um, most websites are requiring at least a minimum of 8, characters. Some have
Oh
moved up to
yeah.
12. Um, but the reality is that, a lot of those can be brute forced given enough time and resources. And really the issue there is whether or not you're a high value target versus just some random peon and they happen to
Right.
get your password from a hash.
Well,
But
fuck
like
you, Russia, if that one helps us at all.
so realistically what you have to do is you have to turn on two-factor or multi-factor authentication. So that's where, like, for example, you know you go to log into a site and it inputs your password and then it's like, hey, use your biometrics, or hey, we're going to send your phone a code, or hey, you need to log into your email address and click on this authentication link.
Sure.
And those are ways in which you can keep your data more secure, and it's
Yeah.
definitely worthwhile.
The iPad has the thumbprint,
Yep.
so a lot of it is that, but then it saves it into my browser, and I'm not quite sure I like that either. So I don't know. There's a lot of, and I wanted to ask, I don't know, there is so much in this note, Jeffrey, and it's amazing to me that I don't know if we'll ever touch on any of it. You know what I mean? And I don't know which one story we'll touch on, or if we ever get to any of it. And I could care less because nobody knows ahead of time what's in my note. But I did want to ask because a lot of the cybersecurity that's being offered to us to protect us is made by contractors in countries that have an interest in
Hmm.
backdooring some of this security stuff. So I don't
Hmm.
even know which security systems to go for to protect myself, you know? And so at some
Hmm.
point we're going to have to get more involved in things and like what a VPN is and
Hmm.
how to protect ourselves, and is LifeLock valuable, things like that can make a difference because you can spend $9 a month on LifeLock and get nothing, or you can use NordVPN that comes free, maybe, you know what I mean? So I don't know
So
any.
there's a few ways that you could do it, and maybe this will just be kind of a just the tip, if you will.
Ooh, just the
So
tip.
you know there's a lot of places out there that offer all these different privacy suites and ID monitoring, and that's fine and all. There's sites like Credit Karma that are great for showing you when new accounts are open, but you
Mm-hmm.
can go into the big three credit agencies, and you can actually lock your credit so that way nobody can open anything in your name.
Interesting. Cool.
Now I have not done this, and so it's hard for me to say what that process looks like. But if, for example, you don't have any plans on opening a new credit card, buying anything new, this is one way that at least, you wouldn't have somebody gaining access to your credit. But your credit cards and debit cards are a whole different matter compared to this. So somebody
Right.
couldn't take out a loan in your name or a new credit card in your name, for example.
Okay. But they could
That's
open a bank account and
Nope.
get a, no. Okay.
No, no. Um, the only thing that they would be able to do is, like, if your credit card or debit card got hacked, they'd be able to use it.
Okay. And some bank apps actually have a button to where you can lock your
Yep.
card if you lose it. So there's a
Yep.
lot of protocols out there, Kathy. Remember that. We know
Yep.
them.
So that's one way. And then realistically, like, VPNs are are interesting tools to be able to quote unquote protect data, but the reality is that there's a lot of them that are already hacked,
Mm,
and being monitored actively as it is.
right.
Like if you want to get around traffic, like there's ways to do it, but some of these they offer very, I would say, very basic VPN services. And that's perfectly fine, especially if you're doing very basic things like, let's say you're trying to get a show on Netflix that's not on your region, but let's say it's in Japan or something like that. You'd be
Yeah.
able to do that. So that's VPNs have their uses in that realm, but in terms of securing your data, they help. Yeah, they can help, but it all depends on which one you use.
And who wants to get in there bad enough?
Exactly, and that's the thing is like I guarantee you the idea that any of these, major VPN corporations aren't hacked is, it's, yeah, I would highly doubt that, any of the other major ones aren't already cracked.
Right. I mean, they're not US contractors only. That's what, bugs
Hmm.
me. I mean, that's where my question is. I don't know whether that should bug me. Like we're speaking Greek right now. I have no idea what we're talking about.
Realistically, what it boils down to is that there are more secure protocols being developed for the web to help naturally, I wouldn't say natural, what I mean, it's the best way to describe it for the layperson, to help naturally encrypt your information so it's better protected.
Two
Um,
factor, like the two factor stuff.
no, more like it's you have to think about it more like, for example, if you ever
I know
played,
what you like WhatsApp, right?
yeah, kind of like that.
Right.
So there's ways that they're trying to do that. Also, WhatsApp's cracked, so don't bother. Um,
Telegram, it's run by
also,
Russia.
Telegram also hacked,
Right. Discord,
hacked
I
by
don't
everybody.
know.
um, but that's the thing is like if you're looking to share certain information online, they're developing the means in
Yeah.
which you can do it anonymously is very expensive and very difficult. And like anything else, there's no guarantee. And especially, for example, when your traffic is, if you get, let's say that you get some type of an encryption service and you still do the exact same things, that data pattern still exists. Sure, it might be like,
Right.
you know, obfuscated a little bit, but if it's still the same pattern, it's still the same pattern, and they can trace it back to who the person is.
Okay.
So I mean, realistically, like, have strong passwords, enable two-factor, multi-factor authentication, and don't go visiting any sketchy porn sites.
Yeah. Sketchy porn does it every time. Yeah, for
Or,
sure.
or my personal favorite is, everybody's trying to, find that movie that's out that they want to, see but not go to the theater. Some of those
Right.
sites are, oh my God, some of those sites are just so bad.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. If you're gonna put it on the internet, it's gonna be on the internet. That's all I can say about it.
And
I
that's pretty
wanted
much it.
I want to say hi and thank you to Karen from Earkick that was on our conversation last week. That was amazing. We've been promoting that since Thursday, and I will tell you they are super responsive on Instagram, on TikTok, on Twitter. They're everywhere thanking us for everything. And I just think it's so really cool, to be connected with them in some way. Hopefully we get her back in a month to let everybody know. We told people on Twitter to go ahead and get the app, use the app, and then join us next month so we could actually have a question answer sort of discussion thing. And
Mm,
we also connected with, she talked about a disabled man, Vortle Games, Vortle Games, and we connected with him on Twitter. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm glad we could help them. They keep saying we're on the same mission of helping people get information that eases their brains and then
mhm,
monitoring it. And I like the whole idea of they're not taking my data and selling it like Facebook. That's where they had me.
mhm.
So
Yeah. And that's, and especially like right now, like data sales is really where most people make their money. And that's,
right.
So it'll be really interesting to see how, I'm interested to see how it develops. I think it's a
Yeah,
fantastic app. So
me too. Hey, you know what today is? Today is Muslim Women's Day, March 27th. So it's
hmm,
rare we actually get a day to do a shout out for Muslim women. So thank you, Muslim women. You know, my favorite is Ilhan Omar. If you have your own, go ahead and tweet them or message them and let them know they're not alone. They have support.
yeah.
Yep. Basic, pretty basic. Have you heard of radical monogamy?
Oh God. I'm gonna say this out loud, and Debbie is gonna come storming across the room.
I do throw those little fish hooks out there in case she's in the room, just so they might be like, "Hey, I want to get in on this."
Have you heard of the term, and I quote, radical monogamy? Well, they just said, what the fuck?
What the fuck?
Yeah,
Apparently,
well,
it's making the decision after exploring all of your choices. If you land on monogamy after considering all other options, it's radical.
oh my God. Debbie's about to tear somebody a new one.
No. Oh, I'm sorry, Devi. We can thank Dan Savage from the Savage Lovecast for this one. As I was doing my note and listening to him, that was the opening statement. I thought it was just a fantastic thing, you know?
Well, I don't know who came up with it, but I saw it making the rounds this week where they're talking about radical monogamy. And like you
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
the idea that you've tried everything else and monogamy is the only thing that works for you. And I'm like, how the fuck is that radical?
Right. It fits into the bag of absolutes for me. Like I never
Uh,
will know. So how do you know, you know?
Radical monogamy falls under the same line as people who call themselves Sigma males because apparently alpha wasn't enough. And also and also people who call themselves pure strain humans because they didn't get the vaccine. That's how fucking stupid this is.
Wow. I thought it was just another
You
gimmick
know,
to sell
we
t-shirts,
have a
you know?
term for radical monogamy. It's called monogamy.
Right, but it's base. What they're saying is it's a base setting. Like you'd nobody ever customized it. We assume that we have to be in a straight monogamous relationship, and then we need to explore that further. It's like we've already been told, what we should do. It's a preconceived notion that we should be monogamous. I don't like the term. I agree with you. Monogamy is monogamy. We make that choice every day.
Yeah,
Every
if
time we wake up, we decide whether we want to continue to be in the relationship we're in or if we want to change the parameters of that. You know what I mean?
like there's monogamy and then there's, ethical non-monogamy and then there's of course unethical non-monogamy, but
Right. But
radical monogamy. I mean,
yeah,
you're so committed it's radical. I
it's
what the
it's
fuck?
radical. It's radical because
No.
now monogamy isn't just
Oh God, the
um
straights have gone radical.
right, but no, this isn't straight people. This is gay people creating radical monogamy.
I just I don't
And it's also the gay people creating radical minority terms. This guy actually he said he coined the phrase, and he picks on people that haven't chosen this path. So it's the exact same thing as every other monogamy. It's somebody judging you for the way you live your life. And it doesn't matter what you call yourself because you are a version of it. If you're
this is
monogamous,
so
you're
fucking
your
dumb.
version of monogamy. If you're in a same sex couple, that's your version of it. Polyamory, it's your version of it. It's not, you don't have to be polyamorous defined by the dictionary as polyamorous to live your life. You know what I mean?
It's that's the thing is like
This is the shortest line in my note, by the
God,
way.
this
This
is the
is just
most
one.
painful one
This is
that
the
I
one
think
sentence.
yeah, apparently you've inflicted pain. You've
I'm
chosen the path of
sorry.
pain. Like
Wow.
I'm going to be surprised if Debbie's not over there just like trying to find anything and everything on it so that way somebody can get destroyed later.
Yeah, then we'll do a whole second hour on it. You know what I mean? So Republicans are going after
Wait, what?
what? Say what?
What
What?
did you say?
You're listening to Public Access America.
Apparently, there's an article on it's the practical view of the 5 types of monogamy.
Wow, now there's 5 types. I love
Oh
this.
God.
But that's my point. There's
Oh,
actually 350 billion versions of relationship out there. You know what I mean?
oh my God. I think I might have had a stroke, Jason.
Yeah.
I think this is it. This is my death note.
Uh-oh.
This is where it ends. Oh, somebody did something really dumb
Yeah.
and it
Sorry.
hurts
I
so
brought it up.
much.
I'm sorry.
Like, here's the thing.
Should we move on to another topic? Is it
No,
hurting you?
no, we've got a hammer on this dumb shit because
Okay, cool.
this is amazing.
I like it.
So I'll say my piece on it,
Sure.
and I will, let smarter people than I decide whether or not they want to talk about it another time or not.
There you
Or,
go.
maybe there will just be like, some type of explosion of thoughts on how stupid something is.
Uh-huh.
But the reality is that like so like for example, one of them was like financial monogamy, and I'm going,
Hmm.
what? Uh apparently it's where you share your bank accounts. So what? You share your bank
Right.
accounts and nothing else? You know what we
Mm-hmm.
have? We have a term for that. Non-monogamous. Or you share you share your love for each other, but you know what? Nothing else. We have a term for that. Non-monogamous. Basic. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, oh my God. Oh, you've got Debbie riled up.
Well, that
Debbie's been up
wasn't
for an hour and you've managed to piss him off.
that wasn't the plan. I'll go with it, I'll go with it. Hey, we're here for the next 2 hours. If you want to get in on this, Debbie, I will send you a link. We always
Oh,
respect Debbie, you know what I mean? But I also know that you're 2 hours behind me. So it's actually 9 a.m. You know what I mean?
oh my God. Debbie's literally over there just laughing and choking on their own coffee and spit because this has literally caused us all to just start drooling. This has literally lowered our IQ points to the it's I don't know, like, who thought the somebody needs to tell the media to stop. Just because you see something, that doesn't mean you need to write an article on it.
Right.
This is
Okay.
insane.
So fuck you, Dan Savage.
Wait, please confirm, did Dan Savage come up with this?
No, Dan Savage did not come up with
Oh,
this.
Dan Savage did not come up with this. Apparently, he
No.
just talked about it on his show.
Yeah, it was his opening statement on his last episode.
Ah,
And I want,
oh, it's a Vice article. Oh God,
oh,
that makes it even
I put it in my
fucking
note as
worse.
a question so that I could look into it further. And I just moved on to other things because it was that stupid to me.
Yeah, I saw this. Well, so there's a person I follow called Polyam and apparently like he did a skit on radical monogamy, and I saw that there was the Vice article on it in his post, and I was just like, oh, this is dumb. This can't be a thing. Oh God, I'm wrong. It
It's
hurts.
yeah.
So look, find the relationship dynamic that works for you, and stop calling it weird fucking things. Like this is monogamy without the misogyny. Yeah, so monogamy without the misogyny. What the fuck? Okay, sure. You know what? We're just gonna call this really fucking dumb, and we're gonna move on because this is actually insane. This has somebody felt really fucking left out, and they came up with something that they could sell to Vice and be like, no, 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 I'm not super straight. I'm radically monogamous. Like it's going to be any fucking different. It's still insane. It's still insane. It's like, like the concept of, people who call themselves super straight because apparently straight wasn't straight enough. I'm like, what?
All right.
What?
Well, how about this? I sent Devi a link, and if they want to come and check in, then they can, and we can continue this discussion. I
Yeah.
would love to continue this discussion because
Well, let
to me this was a marketing throwaway, um, media thing. Like we're low on news, so let's come up with another term. And
which
that
I'm
I think that
surprised that that's the they decided to pick up on that. Yeah, we'll
yeah,
let
yeah, yeah,
Debbie read, and if Debbie decides they want to chime in and
sure.
um
I thought this
completely
was a
roast this.
commercial sort of gimmick. I didn't think this was something serious, but if it's giving
God,
you a stroke, then I really do want to cover it in more of a meaningful way than a one sentence in
I
my
don't
note.
I don't know that
But I
there is
also
a
don't want to.
meaningful
I don't
way
want
to
to give
cover
this
it.
stupid stuff attention. You know what I mean?
Right. I don't think there is a meaningful way to cover this other than somebody had an idea and they really needed to stop and don't.
Okay,
Yeah. So it's
that's cool.
yeah. Please something else. I think I'm.
Oh, okay. Here you
Does
go.
anybody else smell burnt toast? Hey, it smells like burnt toast in here.
So Jeffrey,
Yep.
are you looking for a way to kill yourself?
Dude, I've been dead twice. I have
I know.
literally been flatlined twice and I'm still alive. So at this point, I'm just living in spite of everything. So the answer is no. I have plenty of creative ways to off myself.
Okay.
Personally, I'm just gonna hold out for nuclear apocalypse, so that way I can just grab myself a folding chair and a cooler with a
And
beer in
enjoy
it
the
and
show.
bratwurst and a stick, and I'm literally just gonna find myself an open field and I'm just gonna look for the direction that the nuke falls. I'm just gonna get fucking naked and I'm just gonna lean back with a beer in my hand and a fucking bratwurst on a stick and point it towards the fucking mushroom cloud and be like, "Yeah, fuck it,
Man,
chaos it is."
I just hope I have enough time and money to get to Seattle before all that. Are you talking about feeling hopeless?
Wait, you mean there was hope out there?
Are you feeling trapped?
Um, well, if we're talking about the band Trapped, no, I don't feel
Are
that.
you a burden to others?
Um, yeah, usually,
Yeah. Are you increasing your drug and alcohol use?
maybe.
Are you acting a lot more anxious and agitated?
Hmm.
Are you sleeping too little or too much?
I never sleep enough, and in fact, the fucking dog kept waking me up every 30 minutes last night. Fucking dog. Like literally, I literally would get her, like I got her out of bed to see if she'd actually lay down and just like calm down.
No.
She would get up, fucking run around the room, and then I'd put her back in the cage and she'd start fucking pawing at the cage and groaning every 30
Yeah.
minutes. So I'm like, finally at one point I'm like, I can't, maybe I should just take her out. Maybe she's got to go to the bathroom. No,
Mm,
that wasn't it.
no.
So fuck.
Dogs
Oh,
are a responsibility that take away the joy of life. Do you find yourself withdrawing or isolating more?
I wouldn't say that. I would say that, COVID kind of isolated a lot of people, and now I'm pretty much ready to just get the fuck out.
Are you showing signs of rage or talking about acts of revenge?
Rage, yes. Revenge, mm, I don't know who's on my shit list anymore.
It was on a floppy disk.
Yeah, it was on an old thumb drive that was, had 512 kilobytes of space that totally got nuked when I needed to turn in a final and lost it completely
Gotcha.
back in
Well, if you're
2005.
if you're feeling a majority of those things, you could be somebody that's showing signs of wanting to commit suicide, and you should seek help or a friend. Anyway, I did want to circle back to that. You did say that 2 weeks ago, and I did not want to go past it, but we had a jam-packed show last week. You know what I mean?
We really did.
Jeffrey did say he died twice. And while I
Hmm.
didn't want to get the whole thing, I did want to get one of them and ask what the what the fuck.
It's one of those things where everybody has like these cool stories about how they fucking, you know, were dead.
Are they
And
cool? Are they cool, Jeffrey?
mine aren't. In fact, it's not fun. I will say that it gave me a different appreciation on life, but I'm fine. I'm here.
Right.
Um, Now I will say this. I will preface this. As somebody who, has severe clinical depression, um, I have tried to take my own life several times and failed every single time.
So you're like the
Um,
Hulk.
no, more like I chickened out or I didn't
Ah,
take enough to succeed.
okay.
So it didn't work out, but I definitely, it definitely wasn't great for me. And until I got on a better medication, like once I got on a better medication, the suicidal ideation went away. But of course, the medicine that I was on gave me other problems for 10 years. But
Right.
that's so to preface that, you know, I in all of my attempts, I was never close. Unfortunately, I just did a number on myself.
Mm,
But I would say that, as a proxy, I did a lot of really dumb shit as well that, had a pretty decent chance of me winding up dead. And my basic theory on it was, fuck it, if it kills me, I don't give a shit anymore.
right.
Not
Yeah.
not not a great idea. But by the time I
That's
by
my
the
10 to age 10 to age 30. That's
yeah,
how I felt. So I'm with you there.
so 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 by the time I get on good medication, that ideation goes away. And now I'm starting to try and figure out, what does life look like on medication? How do I feel about everything moving forward?
Right. You're finally seeing normal for what it is, right?
Well, what I thought was normal. And
Right, right, right.
and unfortunately that medication just didn't quite work out. The one I'm on now is great.
Okay.
Um but the that one not so great. So I'm on medication. At this point, the medication is working great, or so I think. And I had two instances relatively close together. The first one was um, a motorcycle accident, which was not fun because I was out riding with some friends and I got smoked
Mm.
with a dirt bike, and I coded in the ambulance, and that was it. Um, the second time, so that first time, it's like I remember standing up saying, "I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay," and then the next thing I remember is waking up in the hospital. Um,
That's got to be
not
weird.
not great, not a great feeling. But I will say that, like, during that time, like, I found myself, like, the only way that I know how to describe it is if you've ever had a bed with flannel sheets. Um,
Itchy?
it was completely dark. No, really nice and soft. Good flannel sheet.
Oh,
Good
okay.
flannel sheet. It was it it was warm. It was soft. It was dark. It was kind of like, it was just like being in a dark room, like no lights, no nothing, and it just felt really peaceful. But when I woke up, and it was not peaceful. It hurt. It hurt a lot. The
So you knew the
second time,
difference. You could tell
yeah.
the difference between not being there and being there. You know what I
hmm
mean? Interesting.
The
This is
second
a great
time,
segment to have right after, suicide conversation. If
well,
you do die, it's okay. It's very peaceful, very comforting.
there's a lot more that I can say, and that I will say after this.
Right.
The second time, so I had to go in for a routine surgery, and I started waking up from it early. And so they ended up having to give me more medication to keep me under. That's just naturally the way that I am. Everybody gets a normal dose. Mine is always higher. I have always had a higher tolerance to medication, and if I don't have a higher tolerance, I develop a higher tolerance really quickly.
I got you.
That's just always the way it's been for me. Most people, they can take 2 ibuprofen and they're like, ah, yes, I feel relief. I have to take 5 at a minimum to even feel anything.
Mm.
Tylenol, pointless. Naproxen doesn't do anything. Aspirin actually gives me tinnitus and causes me to go deaf.
Wow. I have
So,
tinnitus.
so
It
pretty
sucks.
much, so pretty much the only options that I had beyond that was opioids. Which problem is I know I like the opioids. I don't want them because I
Okay.
like them.
They don't
So
work for me. Opioids don't work for me.
Well, they work when you get the good shit.
Yes, Dilaudid, right?
Yeah. The
Whatever that
problem is
stuff
that you
is.
get hooked on
Wow.
that shit.
I
And that's
would. I would.
and that's why I don't want it, is because I know who I am, and I'll be a fucking junkie all day long if I
Uh-huh.
get my hands on that shit. Um,
Oh yeah. But when they have a
but
scalpel to your testicle, you want Dilaudid. You know what I
that
mean?
too.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, you put me under.
Right.
Um,
I
but
was laughing
anyways,
the whole time. Sorry.
so I went in for a follow-up routine surgery. And in their notes, they remembered that, I needed a little extra because the fact that I woke up way too
Mm,
early.
yeah, yeah.
So they calculated a little extra, and then they calculated a little extra on top of the little extra, and it stopped my heart.
They don't really know much about anesthesia, right?
It's a very interesting science. For
Yeah.
example, you've got some people who, it doesn't work on them at all. You've got some people where it literally turns their body into a fucking oven.
Right. But
Uh,
that's one of the jobs where experience pays off. You don't want a
mhm,
newbie because it is all about experience. It's not like they have a formula or they know exactly what it does to
right.
the body. It's still
And everybody's
relatively
body is different, so everybody's
right.
body handles it differently. And so for me,
Yeah.
what ended up happening was is um I ended up coding on the table, and so they had to counteract and bring me back.
Mm,
And when I woke up, I because when I died, I went back to that same place. It was, warm, it was dark, it was peaceful,
mm.
it was really nice and comfortable. But then I came back to the sound of, screeching monitors and bright lights, and it felt like I just got hit in the head. And
Yeah.
I've got one doctor who's screaming, "Come back to us," and a nurse crying in the corner.
Wow.
And it's not exactly the way that you want to, wake up.
But also, thank God that nurse and that doctor were cared. You know what I mean?
Right. So not a great, in both times basically had to get, jump started. It's not fun. It's very painful.
Mm. It's not like they
So
make it look in Doctor Strange. Zap
no,
me again. Turn it up. Yep.
it's fucking awful. It hurts
Mm.
so much. So after that, I really did get a whole new lease on life. And, you know, there were a lot of things that I decided that I needed to do that I hadn't done. And
Okay.
I decided to start chasing them after that. So that's when I got more serious about wanting to start bands and play music, figuring out what I wanted to do for school, trying to figure out, other personal aspects of my life. And, and after that, it's like, the idea of killing myself went away because, you know, I realized that there were so many cool things that I wanted to do that were
Right.
never guarantees, but I wanted to go for them. And I
Exactly.
was not,
It's
I
better
was
to die
not ready to,
trying.
I was not ready to call it a life, not having gone for those things.
Okay.
So
Good.
so in the end, am I afraid of the next time? No. I want it to be anytime soon? Also no.
I hope not.
But
I'm
you
glad
know,
you're here, Jeffrey. And I'm glad
I'm glad.
podcasting was one of those things you wanted to do.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like there are so many great reasons to stay alive. If if you can. Like I say that because I have lost people that I love.
Me too.
And the reality is that when somebody doesn't want help, there's nothing you can do to stop it. And it's hard. It hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts a lot. And especially when you have people like that who've been around you, for years, been close to you for years, and suddenly it's just a void there. It's yeah, and there was also that realization for me too after I had gotten better and that had happened and I lost a really close friend. You know, I knew what I was feeling and how badly it hurt. And so I could only imagine what family members were feeling in that moment. And it's one of those things like, there's always you can always find your reason to keep going. The question is, do you have the fight left in you and are you willing to accept a hand, to help get you up? Now, I will say I want to make a very strategic difference here between suicidal ideation, and people who are terminal that refuse to suffer for what is left of their life.
Others, as well as the disabled people that don't want to be killed. I just
Hmm.
found that out. There's an opposition to euthanasia because it's used. Dude, they sterilize fucking disabled people in surgeries without their knowledge or consent. Anyway,
Hmm.
so I mean, there's a lot of versions of wanting to die, not wanting to die.
Hmm.
It's an individual choice, but I get where you're coming from. But I do have a
Right.
question when you finish up with that.
Yeah. So for me, like, I found that there were a number of things that I absolutely wanted to go for after having tried and failed, after having external factors try and fail. It's like, well, these things couldn't kill me and I couldn't kill me, so fuck it, we're gonna go for it. You know what?
As well as that stuff doesn't fulfill you.
Right,
External things don't fulfill an emptiness in you. A
right,
chemical empty, a chemical imbalance, a chemical,
right.
yeah.
And I made it a goal to try and figure out for myself what was wrong with me. Was there something wrong with me? And turns out I burn serotonin like it's fucking rocket fuel.
Mm, okay.
So, where most people get, like, they can get enough serotonin from vitamin D sources and the sun. I can't. No matter what happens, I burn it like it's rocket fuel, and then I
Okay.
crash. And so, medication I take stops the reuptake of it. So I absolutely have enough to go around.
A lot of my friends have the story, have a story of that, of a suicide attempts, and I'm so grateful to have y'all in my life, to be able to reach out to the people that I know could have gone and the people that I'm part of their new life. Like
Hmm.
they're done giving up, they're gonna try, and then I get to be their friend. I'm really grateful to all of you. But one little trivial thing. Suicide really hurts death. Death really hurts the people around that.
Hmm.
My first wife died 8 times, flatlined 8 times. My second wife died twice. So I've been around that. Those weren't well, I don't think that the drug overdoses, it's
It
convoluted. But what I
is
what I
very.
but what I want to ask you is, because when I started researching this and I couldn't come up with an answer, is uh, is there a way to communicate to those that you love, even some of just a couple of the closest, that this is something you're going to do and you don't want to leave them in that spot? Like, I think people that are thinking about suicide quietly, almost passive aggressively, kind of leak it out and leave people clues so that when suicide does happen, their loved ones are left backfilling the reason. Is there like I if you want to have euthanasia and you go to Sweden, your family has to know about it. Like they, you
Hmm.
know what I mean, for
Yep.
legally. So is there a way? But I understand that's so tricky and I couldn't come up with an answer for it and I couldn't find anything on Google. How do you tell your loved ones you want to commit suicide without having them stop you? You know?
Um, this is, I mean, this is
And again,
wishful
I'm not
thinking.
suicidal.
Right, right,
You know
right.
what I mean? I just
No,
want
no,
to
no.
say
I know what you're saying.
I have been, but I've
Yeah,
never gotten to that point.
I know what you're. So this is where it's tough because you're relying
Mm-hmm.
on somebody who is retreated into themselves so much.
Right.
The thing that people don't think about when it comes to people who are wanting, who are suicidal, is that they're not thinking of, they're not wanting to broadcast what they're doing. In fact, they've gotten very good at hiding it. And
Exactly.
so the idea of even mentioning it is very difficult. It's very painful. And
Mm-hmm.
so oftentimes it's not even that you are able to say the words, I'm thinking about killing myself. Sometimes the best you're going to be able to muster is, I need someone to hang out with me.
Right.
Not, would you like to hang out? I need somebody there.
Or am I weird? It's these little questions. That's what I'm saying. They leave a trail of, oh my God, they were considering it. And it's almost like, okay, you're my loved one. Jeffrey, you're my loved one. I want to tell you I want to commit suicide. I'm done. I've thought of everything I can think of, but I'm coming to you to give you the chance to offer me some suggestions of help before we ultimately agree that it's the thing to do for me. That's what I want to know if there's some way to do that, like a backwards intervention, but you're saying that people deep
It's
in thought wouldn't consider it because they've already silently asked, right? They've already said, "Are you
they've
my friend?" And you rejected me. You didn't respond to my text, so now you hate
well,
me. You know,
it's not even necessarily about that.
it's like stages of giving up. It's not
It really is.
suicide. It's like a
Like,
slide down, right?
no, you give up on showing negative emotions because it's attention you don't want. You give up on hanging out around friends because you can't get rid of the negative emotions, so you don't want people around you to see these
Right.
negative emotions that you don't want to talk about.
But then you end up
and
reinforcing it. You see it
and then
everywhere.
you start, that isolation starts creating all of these different issues that you have to fight off alone. And as someone who's done all of that, like
It's sad.
it's hard.
To
and
think of a friend going through that alone is really hard, you
and
know?
and and even if somebody is able to communicate it, and this is something that I said earlier,
I would really hope
if
they could just spit the sentence out to one person. You know what I mean?
but here's the reality that is really hard to swallow for the other party. If this person doesn't want the therapy, doesn't want the doctors, doesn't want the medication, doesn't want any type of intervention, be it friends, of relatives, religion, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when a person has gotten to that point where they will that they're rejecting every form of possible help,
Sure.
the only thing that you can do is show that you're there for them. But you also have to protect your own mental health in this case too, and that's where it gets really tough, because you don't want to withdraw from some of these people. You don't want them to decide that, no, this is, I was right,
Sure.
nobody's going to be here for me.
You don't want to become their only reason to live either.
and that's and
Trust me
that's
on
where it
that one.
gets and that's where it gets tough, is that you know we all, we want to help as much as we can, as much as possible. And when you have someone who rejects every form of help, you just have to hope that there somewhere is enough willpower in them to start to fight it on their own. And sometimes
Yeah.
the answer is there's not. And
But
that's
somebody's going to find your body. It would be
Yep.
nice if you let them know that you tried and failed at every option. Like if you that you tried, that you thought of it, that you put thought into therapy, but that's not going to be the answer. You thought about medication, but you tried it, and like you went
Right.
through the steps. You tried everything. You got to like, because that sucks to find that. It
it
does.
it does, but unfortunately, this is one of those things where
Yeah.
you can sit there and postulate every possible off ramp that could exist, and if a
Right.
person is unwilling to take any of them, or has tried, or by their own mental faculties said they've tried and it
Hmm.
didn't work, and or that they just didn't want it. I mean, that's the
Right.
real answer. They just didn't want it.
It's kind of selfish. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad kind of selfish. We all ultimately have to think about ourselves
Mhm.
and how we feel in the world. And if there is no chance of joy in the future, I'm not telling you not to do it. I'm just saying that you haven't laid down and cuddled with me for a night. So if you're thinking about killing yourself, come and cuddle with me for a night, and maybe you'll see better days in the future.
And that was, if everybody's story is going to be different, and everybody's experience is going to be different.
Agreed.
But the biggest one is that people who really truly are at that point, they're not talking about their attempts. They're not saying a thing about it. They don't want
No,
to.
they've
They
already
don't
been
want the attention.
validated.
They
Every
don't want the
everything's
attention.
everything's already been validated. People suck. We suck. People suck. Whatever the reason is, it's already been answered.
Every
That's
For
why
me, it was
suicide is the
everything hurt,
option.
and everything just felt so sad and so
Yeah,
hopeless, and I couldn't get out of it. And you
right.
know at this point, I was the person who, I was the one that everybody was like, this kid's got it all going for him.
Mm-hmm.
One of the smart, the smartest, one of the smartest kids in the school. Um, one of the kids that literally is winning competitions left and right.
A lot
Y-
to
you
live
know,
up to. It's a lot to
in a
live
lot
up
of
to
sports, a lot
in
of
an area
everything.
without a lot of opportunities. That's a
And
lot to live up to when there isn't a lot of chance for growth and inspiration. So yeah.
and for me, like the idea that anybody, I was always the jokester. Like, that's, you see a lot, you see the meme a lot, check in on your funny friends because sometimes they're hiding something.
Oh yeah.
For me, that
People
was,
that question and people that joke are the ones that don't want you to know them at all.
and that was my thing, was is that I was always cracking jokes. I was always
Hell
the funny
yeah.
one. Like, but I was doing it to hide the fact that I had so many negative emotions going on, and I couldn't understand it because logically for me, as a kid, like I couldn't understand. It's like, well, why do I feel this way? I have all of these good things,
Mm,
but the knowledge that we had available to us at the time around mental health, everything indicated that I should be happy. I was going to church. Um, I was involved in tons of organizations. I was involved in my communities.
mm-hmm.
I was winning competitions. I had friends everywhere.
So it was either talk therapy or medication for you. Either it was an unresolved issue or a chemical imbalance because everything else was great.
And that's the thing is that those were things that were never brought up to me. Like, as a kid, it's
Of
hard
course
to,
not.
that's something that's absolutely hard to understand is that there might not actually be anything like externally wrong with you. Like you have all of these great things, but there's
Exactly.
something going on, that you either haven't dealt with from your past, or, which in which case it changes your body chemistry. It really does.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah. Oh,
so
stress over time totally does.
and
Totally.
so and so by or you're somebody who just, your body, developed a certain way, and guess what? You drew the freaking Joker card.
Or you got more testosterone or more estrogen or more serotonin or less SSRI. Like
there's
it's
there's there's all sorts of possibilities, and that's the
mhm.
thing is like,
That's what I'm saying. If you're considering suicide, if you were considering suicide and you came to me and I said, "Did you try medication or talk therapy?" Because it's one of those two, maybe that would be like, I'll try that. You know what I mean? Or,
right.
yes, I tried that. And then I would be left with, oh crap, come here and let me hold you until you die. You know what I mean? Like
Well, and that's
I
where,
had a friend come to me and that's all I could do was I didn't say yes, I didn't say no, I didn't judge, I didn't question. I just held her. You know what I mean?
mhm.
So,
you know for me, like, it's going to be 10 years ago this year, that I lost one of my best friends. And I mean to tell you, for that first year afterwards, I just felt completely listless. Like,
yeah.
there was a lot of survivor's guilt because, I had tried, I had attempted, and I had
Mm-hmm.
been, and I made it through. And this guy, was arguably somebody I would say who was a lot brighter and a lot funnier than I was, and he was absolutely a joy to be around. But,
Mm.
you know, but he made it very clear, he didn't want the doctors, the nurses, he didn't want the medications, he didn't want the therapies, he didn't want any of it. He just wanted it to be over. And I mean, we all tried. We really did. In a lot of different ways, we all tried.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the hardest part, is that, you know, that accepting that there was something that you just couldn't control no matter how hard you tried.
Right.
And
For the people, loved ones around, it's not about you. Like it couldn't be less about you, you know. You
right.
were the only thing that kept that person going as long as they did, you know.
hmm
Mm.
So, and unfortunately, like, his life had been defined by trauma as well, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
and so that's one of those things where it's like, how can a person, how can a person really truly understand what's going on in somebody's head in that moment, except for those of us who've also been there. We understand it. And, you know that's why I've always taken the time to talk about it, because I do believe that it's possible to get through. And I know that, we're creatures that love instant gratification, but when it comes to the mental health journey, it's not. And hell, even all these years later, I'm coming up on 20 years since my last suicide attempt. And guess what? I just did an entire year's worth of therapy over the last year. And guess what? It wasn't because I was, suicidal. Did I have some stuff I needed to work on? Absolutely. I absolutely had some stuff that I needed to work on. And it's been great for me to work on those things. And people around me notice that I have put the work in on those things. And people around me appreciate that I have done that. And it's not just about the people around me. What I'm saying is people around me have noticed. I have noticed. And for me, I feel so much better. And it's going to be something that continues on, in the future. It's something
Hope
that I'm
so.
going to continue to, support, is doing therapy every so often. And especially when you find yourself in a rut, and especially when others find you in a rut, and and you guys have conversations about maybe there's something going on there that you need to
Yep.
really dig in and work through and work out. And it's mental health is hard work, it really is.
Well, it's a lifetime thing because your chemistry is always changing. You know, I
Absolutely.
never had, I didn't, I've had various forms of anxiety and depression and autistic spectrum attitudes and personalities my whole life, but none of them were constant. Some of them come in and out. Some of my OCDs come in and out,
Mhm.
So I, yeah, I think until we get, somebody said that mental health is half of physical health, mental health, right?
Mhm.
Divide it in half. They're both equally as important. So I think, and until we have a Peloton for mental health, like a gym membership for mental health, and we
Mm.
treat mental health the way we treat our physical health, then we're always going to be battling it unless we're proactive.
I do
If we're
love the
seeing the
idea of
sign
like
of
like
it,
a gym for mental health.
yeah, yeah.
I love that idea actually.
I
You
do
know,
too. I was thinking of it just like, well, if we can ride a bike, can't we just get somebody to yell at us, "Hey, be happier." You know?
what are you doing?
I
You got to
know.
lift with your mind harder.
I would love it. Hey, how did, ooh, no, we're so close to the end. I just want to keep going. We got 5 more minutes of this. Do you have anything you wanna add?
you
I
know,
want to my goal was to protect loved ones of people that were dealing with the thoughts and considerations of suicide. I wanted to show people signs of it. I
mhm,
wanted to get the conversation going. I think the idea is to start the conversation early with people you
yes,
love. It's not to wait until the last minute and say, "Hey, I'm going in the other room to die now." I think it's to say, "Hey, guess what? I had a thought." You know what I mean?
right.
And just to be
And
open and honest with people. Because what I think
yeah,
is, we live fake lives, right? Everything's great. How you doing? Good. How you doing? Good. We never really tell anybody when it sucks, right? And so there's this
hmm
drastic thing when it goes from, "Hey, everything's great," to, "Can I talk to you? Because I'm scared." It's like this drop off. Be honest with people so that they can, you know, be with you. So they're not suddenly shocked that you're upset because you've been real with them the whole time. That's my thought. How about yours?
and it's so difficult, because there's so many different versions and so many different journeys. And
Hmm.
even my experience is just based off of severe clinical depression. And when you realize you've got things like seasonal affective disorder, you've got
Oh
things
yeah.
like trauma based. You've got things that are, I forget what the correct term is now, because
Phobias,
it's changed. I mean, I always grew up with it being called bipolar disorder. Um,
yeah, we'll go
manic
with
depressive. There
bipolar.
was manic depressive. There's a number of different terms that I've heard used for it over the years.
Bipolar's not derogatory. It's just a fact.
Well,
It's a mood
it's
swing. There's
well, and
variations to it though,
I think what it is that they've more or less come to a better scientific name for it, and I just can't
Okay.
remember what it is.
That's
Um,
fine.
and
It's part of the ADHD and autism spectrum too. A lot of
which
autistic people find themselves bipolar.
And that's the thing is and understanding that you've got people around you who are most likely in similar places or have dealt with similar things. You've got an older generation who finally got to talk about mental health, and while it's
Hmm.
still somewhat of a stigma, it's not nearly as bad as it used to be.
Right. But it is this gray area of people that don't know and people that
Oh,
know
absolutely.
way too well. And it's that mixture of salt water and fresh water that's
Hmm.
causing the issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
and that's and the thing is that as more people talk openly about mental health, realizing that you've got there, sure, you're going to hear people out there that say you don't need mental health therapy, you need religion. Well, for some people, religion is a part of that mental health therapy. Now, it's
agreed.
not for me. In fact, I
But it
think
gives you
honest,
structure in your life. It gives
it
you a
can.
bigger thought than just yourself.
And to me, it's the idea of wherever you find peace.
Hmm.
Whether you decide that it's Islam, or it's Christianity, or it's Judaism, or maybe it's Hinduism or Buddhism,
And
whatever,
just a knowledge of them all. Just a
you know
knowledge, you know?
whatever brings you, or maybe it's nothing at all, like me. um
Spirituality, the wind, the earth, the fire, the water.
Having, taking deep breaths and being able to think
Hmm.
about where you're at, and ground yourself. There's so many different ways that you can find peace in life, and as part of that mental health strategy, it's about figuring that out. For me, music was the one of the biggest things that I used for a long time in order to bring myself peace.
Me
And
too.
I still love it, and it's still one of those things that I do use. Now, you just have to each person has to decide how much work they're willing to put in, and
Hmm.
who they're willing to involve in order to help them get that work done. And I do believe that each and every person could get there. I won't say will, could get there.
Hmm. We need everyone. It's just where we need them. And so if you're feeling like you have no purpose on this planet, it's because you haven't been put in a position to discover the value of the purpose that you have. Find yourself in service. If you're going to kill yourself, maybe spend a week at a soup kitchen and offer others service, because you're a useful body.
Hell,
You know what I mean?
sign up for the
Like,
Peace Corps, and
right,
put
right,
yourself on the other side of the planet and go help some people if you
right.
feel like maybe that's something that'll help. It's a great opportunity to explore what
Yeah.
helps you heal.
Reach that fuck
And
it moment.
understand.
Fuck it. Right.
Yeah, for me, it's like deuces every day. We're gonna
Yeah.
go for it.
Yeah.
We're gonna go for it, and the goal is love. Love everybody, and give everybody a shot at finding peace.
Yeah, but everybody does have a reason to be here. So I
Mhm.
was, wait, hey, everybody, thank you for listening to Public Access America. You can find us anywhere you find your favorite podcasts. That's what we do. You can find our live stream on YouTube every Sunday, and you can find some great stuff on our social media, like on Twitter at Public Access Pod, Instagram, and YouTube at Public Access America. I had this thought, Jeffrey White.
Mhm.
Thank you for listening. I forget to pause. I go right into another sentence and it's fucking killer in the editing
Like,
process. I had this thought. Okay. So there's multiple dimensions, right? And
Mhm.
maybe one of them is heaven. Maybe one of them is hell. Maybe one of them is a place where ketchup rains from the skies, right? What I was thinking though is that maybe when we die, it's a transition to that dimension, right?
Mhm.
But even greater, children that die or uh, fetuses that were aborted, they immediately go there. They grow up in that dimension. That's their dimension. You know what I mean? Like it's not death, it's still a transition. That's a weird sort of thing. But all of my other stuff is kind of political.
For a second, when you were talking about ketchup raining from the sky, you
Mhm.
know, I was like, oh God, that just sounds horrible and
Oh, yeah.
wrong.
Gross. Ketchup is
Yeah,
gross.
just imagine walking outside and just getting covered in ketchup. Yeah, I
Ew,
love
ew.
I love the idea of all of these different dimensions and all of these different places that we can travel. I think
To
that
give
there's
somebody peace after our last conversation, to be like, it's not death. Maybe it's just moving to somewhere else.
don't know. That's the
Don't know.
important part. How are we to know that it's not, the transfer of consciousness from one end of the universe to the other,
That's right.
even, and you stay within the same plane. It's just that your consciousness travels to another location. It's
Ugh,
hard to say.
I love that.
That's
I love it.
it's a really interesting idea that,
Hmm.
maybe that's not that you're moving into another dimension. Maybe it's just that you're literally, being beamed at the speed of light to the opposite end of the universe where,
Right.
life 2.0 happens. I mean, we don't know.
We don't
It's,
know.
there's so many, or, for example, ghosts. Maybe ghosts are places where interdimensional vibrations allow us to cross planes, and we see images from the past, in ways that, we didn't think possible, or, and intelligent signs from the
Oh yeah.
past that allow us to allow that other dimension to interact with ours. Or maybe it's all, hokey bullshit, and, we end up, being eaten coming out of worm's ass at the end of it. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, when I think of ghosts, I think the shit's gonna happen whether I call it a ghost or a specter or a poltergeist. Like it's still
Hmm.
scary as shit, you know. But I was watching one of those shows, and the lady was like, "Yeah, I saw a shadow person, but then their suit malfunctioned, and I saw who was under it, and it was us." And I was like, "Oh God," you know?
Who I know him. He's me.
Right. It was the future. It was the future person coming back. And I was just like, that's just crazy. So apparently these shadow people are just tourists from the future. You don't need to be scared of them. You know?
Man, I could, of all the places that I would want to be a tourist in, the past is not one of them.
Yeah,
Oh,
no.
yikes.
Which brings me
No.
to time dilation. We can catch up on this one too, because time dilation is really awesome. If you're on the earth, time moves at a certain speed, but if you go up into the atmosphere, time slows down. So you can go up in the air and the earth will go by faster and you can go backwards in time, forward in time. I'm confused because I'm wondering if you then burrow into the earth as far down as you could, would time move even faster? You know what I mean?
Your convalescence would, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's kind
Uh,
of
yeah.
so I love this stuff. Who is it? Bigelow? Bigelow Industries, Bigelow Aerospace. Bob Bigelow, Robert Bigelow, thank you. Robert Bigelow says that aliens are right under our nose, and it doesn't matter if people believe him because he knows what he knows. And it made me think to something. White people are the aliens. Brown people are the natural inhabitants of Earth. And that's why we hate them so much. That's why we're fighting them, because we know it's naturally theirs. And we are the aliens that are right under our noses. Because what else is under my nose except my penis, Jeffrey?
Penises are aliens.
Penises are aliens. Penises are alien technology that we've developed over time. Take that, cancel culture. I know. I'm just trying to
I
speak through my rhetoric to get to some good stuff.
I just love the idea that, like you said, I like Stephen Hawking explanation on alien life. If alien life really existed and we had it, then it would be the one thing that our government slash any government has done a better job of keeping secret than
Mm-hmm.
anything else they've ever kept secret.
Yeah. Because Ronald Reagan, desperate to know. Bill Clinton, angry that he was being like denied. Barack Obama, he released 18 million pages of CIA information about this. Every president has wanted to know. In fact, they even asked Donald Trump whether aliens existed. And he actually slid off on the subject. I couldn't believe he didn't say yes just to get, coverage over something, you know?
Right.
So if there
So
was, they would tell us, or we would know already,
it,
right?
it's not to say that alien life doesn't exist, but the idea that intelligent life has visited us is a lot more difficult
Oh,
to say
alien
that.
life exists for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the realistic expectation is that all it takes is, a few microbes as a hitchhiker on an asteroid, and
Mm-hmm.
voila, you have alien life here on the planet. That's not a difficult concept to understand.
Right.
But the idea that, you've had intelligent life visiting us, once again, possible? Sure. Likely?
Mm.
No.
What's really cool is that Pluto, right, the planet we don't consider a planet on the outer edge of our universe, spits out the building blocks for life in the form of these folins. And the folins are actually concentrated on, I think it's, what is it, Uranus, the planet right, next to it. Like these folins are being distributed, and all you need is a little water and a little microbe, and boom, you have a life form.
I'm
I think
always
that's so cool.
concentrated on Uranus.
I bet you are. I bet you are. Let's see. Oh, I had a joke. Jeffrey, you're a lot like the right knee, and I'm like the left knee. Together, we're just the weenies.
Hmm.
Right. And public service announcement for this summer. If you want to visit one of our national parks, just remember when you're camping, you can't run past tents. Okay, let's move on.
Hey.
So Disney employees in California, they're actually protesting. They're coming out. They're coming out. They're breaking their silence, and they're coming out in protest of the "Don't Say Gay" law in Florida because Disney has had a horrible stance on it.
Hmm.
We've talked about "Don't Say Gay," but I think it's important to promote the fact that Disney employees are doing this when they could lose their jobs over it. So thank you for spreading awareness about the issue. I still
Yeah.
don't know what's in the bill. I still don't know what's in the bill.
Nobody
Nobody
knows
wants to
what's in the
come on and
bill.
talk, and I don't want to talk. I don't want to teach kids about sex at 3 years old. I guess maybe third
At
grade,
third grade level.
and that worries me because I think they have questions at third grade level.
Well, and yeah,
So
what it
Jeffrey,
boils down to
yeah,
is it's do I think that there needs to be a curriculum in third grade? No. But
no,
the idea that, the idea that a teacher couldn't say, you know, if you're out in public with the kids, which, it's very rare that this is the case.
Hmm,
Well, why are those two guys holding hands and kissing? Because
right?
they're gay. Moving on. Oh, okay.
Why do I
It's
have two moms? Why does my brother wear my skirts?
all things, it's kind of like it falls into that whole, realm of, you know critical race theory and,
Hmm.
the quote unquote gay agenda.
Well, how about
Like
this?
everybody thinks that, you're trying to teach these kids shit like this, at a young level, and it's like critical race theory doesn't exist outside of a fucking law school. in you
Oh
know
my God, yeah.
Nobody's teaching this shit in high school. Like, it's not a thing, and everybody is getting fucking outraged over something that is literally nothing, unless you're going to fucking law school.
Critical race theory is like putting the blur filter on a picture. It's just one filter you can use to see an image through. It's not a methodology. It's not a methodology.
Nope.
It's not a perspective. It's not a
Nope.
belief that
Nope.
somebody can have. It's just a filter. Like if I want to
Yeah.
see something as racist, I put on a racist filter. If I want to see something as gender neutral, I put on a Devi filter. It's critical race theory is just that. It's not more than that.
And that's the other thing too, is that, all these people are sitting there thinking that these kids are being, taught like hard, like getting in-depth
Hardcore, right?
lessons on these things as third graders, and it's like,
Hmm.
and do you remember what sex ed was like when you were in fucking sixth grade?
Yeah, an egg and some giggles. Like,
Pretty much.
here's your egg. Keep it alive the whole time.
This
So
is a penis.
so does Ted Cruz have like wait, does Ted Cruz only read children's books, or does he believe that the constituents of America are producing people that can only understand children's books? Because from Dr. Seuss, Green Eggs and Ham, to Mr. Potato Head, to Big Bird, to this making a racist baby thing, making a gay baby, I didn't listen, but it made me
uh,
wonder, like, who is he playing to? Who look,
well,
Ted
if you
Cruz is from Texas, right?
yep.
Half of Texas needs to vote for Ted Cruz to make him a senator in Texas. I'm blaming Texas. Does Ted Cruz is saying Texas people are this stupid, and I'm calling him out. I'm calling him out. Texas, are you that stupid or are you going to elect somebody else?
Well, did you see what actually happened after he went on that fucking tirade?
I didn't see any. I saw a
He got
picture
caught
and
he got caught looking himself up on his phone to
that's
see
right.
if people were actually, going, Senator
What?
Cruz owns the libs,
Is
like
that what it is?
what the fuck is this?
Is he trying to own the libs? But that's my thing. He's trying to own the libs, but in what way? Not in a realistic, factual way. Because if he says, Kajanji Brown Jackson, do you feel this way about this? People aren't going to understand her answer because it's higher than their education level. So he brings in a children's book and asks her about
This is
how
that
she feels
whole
about creating racist babies. And I just
th-
don't understand that. Like
th-
Marsha Blackburn, can you define what a woman is? What the fuck? Fuck you. That's not her job. And if she did, we wouldn't nominate her for the Supreme Court because that's not an opinion she should have, you know?
well, and that's what it boils down to is that right now what you're seeing is the court of political theater. Like
Mm-hmm.
the anti-racist baby had nothing to do with, with her ability to understand and apply law. It
Right.
had nothing to do with her being asked questions or hypotheticals on if you were to have a case regarding X. It was
Right.
nothing to do with her credentials, her past, her present, her future. It was all political theater so that way these guys could get some sound bites in while they run for their fucking midterm elections and be like, yeah, look at me, I totally own the libs. Meanwhile, everybody who actually is thinking at all is going, where the fuck did this come from? This makes absolutely no sense. This has almost nothing to do with what we're supposed to be doing here today, which is, judging the credentials and the decision making ability of somebody who is supposed to be a member of the Supreme Court. Like, I think conservatives would have had a lot more they would have had a lot more oomph behind their message had they've been pointed and asked her things such as, what do you think about, do you think that magazine restrictions violate the Constitution? Do you think the restriction on whether or not civilians can have fully automatic weapons is a violation of the Constitution? Do you think that asking for a background check is a violation of the Constitution of the Second Amendment? Those are things that I honestly believe that conservatives could have scored actual real points on
Actually,
that
yeah.
actually have bearing in the current political climate. And Ted Cruz went with a fucking children's book because, the day before he really had to not make himself look like a jackass after he sat in my hometown airport in Bozeman, Montana, and,
Yep.
was a fucking dickhead to a couple of, poor fucking, customer service people at the airline check-in counter
Yeah.
because he was fucking late to his appointment and then pulls the, do you know who I am? So then he
Right.
gets to fucking sit there with a cop going, yeah, I know who you are, and I don't give a shit because Montanans really don't give a shit who the fuck you are. We don't care.
Plus, everyone that knows Ted Cruz hates Ted Cruz. So the only people left that he can get to hate him are people that don't know him yet. So he walks around saying, do you know who I am? And so when people say no, he can poke him in the eye and say, I'm Ted Cruz, bitch.
The idea that the idea of Ted Cruz asking, "Do you know who I am?" is like that's going to get him better treatment because
Right.
of the fact that he's Ted Cruz.
I mean, wasn't
Like,
it Lindsey Graham that said if Ted Cruz was shot or stabbed on the Senate floor, there would be no witnesses?
yeah, I want to say that was pretty much it was what he said,
Yeah.
and that's the thing is like this is fucking dumb. Like there, legitimately you could have a number of different, like you could have literally had someone dig in and go, okay, so in a governmental society where people are worried about, their rights, the rights of trans kids, for example, do you think that a magazine ban is going to have an adverse effect on trans kids because their parents are literally not going to be able to defend their family adequately from a government who is labeling their kids as abused by their parents? Like that question right there would literally completely fucking derail everybody because you'd have the right going off on how trans kids are bad and guns are good, and you'd have the left going off on trans kids good, guns are bad, and everybody missing the entire fucking point that it's all, like the idea that the government should be deciding, whether or not, a kid who is, actively working with parents and doctors is being abused is a fucking mind fuck in and of itself.
It's a mind fuck. And, yeah, and a Republican, Tom Cotton, saying that he would rather that interracial marriage and gay marriage was left up to the states, and that he would be okay if the Supreme Court overturned this stuff. This is dangerous shit they're talking about. Like
Right?
they just got rid of abortion. They're coming after gay marriage and interracial marriage, which
That's
90% of
insane.
the country are in favor of,
Right. Or,
or not opposed to, not
or my
opposed to.
personal favorite, marriage is what I would consider, or what they have tried to define. I'm going to use their own definition. Marriage is a religious institution. Okay, well, if a religion decides that a black and a white person can be married, or gay people can be married, or trans people can be married, or any variation thereof, then the government has absolutely no ability to define what a religion can or can't do. So in that aspect, the government should not have any ability to decide who can't be married, other than are they 18? In which case, age of consent, very important. And also on top of that, the government really, I would argue, is they can only decide who they would consider a taxable entity, a taxable family entity. In which case, all they could, if they really wanted to get away from that and not make it a very political thing, they would just make everybody file solo. So the reality is that what you saw was political theater, and it had next to nothing to do with any number of potential cases coming down the pipeline to the Supreme Court. And it had nothing to do with how she would have to assess very difficult, complex processes that are going to foundationally shape so many things moving forward.
Right. And she's not an originalist, but she does
Mhm,
believe that she needs to start there. And so she reads the interpretation of she reads the Constitution for the words that it has in it,
mhm,
and then she goes from there on settled law to get to her decision.
right.
It's not a activist sort of view. I want to say something like I don't have a problem with Amy Coney Barrett. I don't have a problem with Garland, is it? I have a problem with
Garland is the attorney general right now.
America. Yeah, I don't like him. I don't. But
You're
who is it?
either you're thinking of Gorsuch or Kavanaugh.
Gorsuch. Because I want to say I have a real problem with Kavanaugh. You know, he is the reason that the court looks is hated the way it is. That it has like a 40% approval rating. Him and him alone. Because I can't get that image out of my head of him asking Amy Klobuchar if she likes a drink once in a while. It's like I can't get past that. But I don't have a problem with Amy Comey Barrett being an originalist, and I don't like. So what do you think about fucking Clarence Thomas? Are we avoiding this or not?
Oh,
Or Ginny,
oh,
Ginny,
this is a tough one, because
Ginny.
this is another one of those quote unquote Russian collusion things.
Mm.
Here's the reality. Her actions start with her alone,
Oh
and
yeah.
your burden of proof has to be that there was some type of communication between her and her husband, where he would have to say, hey, this is also my view, you should say this, in order for it to tie back to him effectively.
Mm.
And the reality that you're going to get there is probably next to zero.
Mm.
So
Oh, I agree. I don't think he'll be
that's
impeached. That's what they're
oh
calling
no.
for. No.
Oh yeah, they're calling for that, and it's going to be another fucking failed effort, is what it's going to be.
But what it is going to be is chum in the water for the
Oh god,
sharks. Once people realize he's vulnerable, they will dox the fuck out of him, and he's a sex abuser. So,
the water
like,
is just nothing but chum at this point.
well, I don't think people are going after Sotomayor. I don't think they're going after Kennedy. I don't think they're going after Kajanji Brown Jackson once she gets there, which I believe I totally adore her. Like her smile is half of her face. And I don't
Mhm.
see her being in any other position but a Supreme Court justice, you know? And I just, I think people are going to go after Kavanaugh, and I think they're going to go after Thomas. And I think they should. I think they should. I think there's plenty to dox them and feast on. So
I think
please.
I think that there's always something to dox on any political person.
Hmm.
The reality of it being effective, though, I mean, we've seen time and time again, especially over the last 5 years, what that has looked like, and it has revealed next to nothing more than what most average people would assume is somebody was out for their own gain
Yeah.
and did something stupid and got busted for it. And honestly, like, it wouldn't surprise me if that's exactly what happened with Clarence Thomas's wife. Was she did and said something really fucking dumb, and it doesn't tie back, or they cannot make it tie back to Clarence Thomas at all.
No, well,
Like,
there's
it's
something
not that I.
about her talking to her best friend and
Mhm.
rumors that that's what they call themselves. Who cares? I mean, who cares? Honestly, who cares? He's gonna sit there until he doesn't sit there anymore. And it's been 2,000 years of being judged by sex perverts and abusers. So what the fuck? What's another fucking 10 years with Clarence Thomas?
And
People like
that's the
you
other thing
guys.
too, is that, at that point it's like, if we're going to be voting on candidates based on their spouses, are we really prepared to go down that route as
Oh my
well?
God, we're talking about KBJ's history in elementary school, dude. Like thoughts that she had in grade school. So we can't talk about spouses now. I think spouses are totally on the table. And I think Ginny is disgusting. Like I think she's disgusting. Her stance, maybe she was caught up in shit, but she's an insider and I just think this is how it is. I think
Oh,
that's how it is.
I think in terms of, any type of investigation that way, yeah,
Hmm.
they're going to have every right to investigate it. I mean, it's clear that she had communications with Mark Meadows.
Oh
Like,
yeah. But did
and
she
whether
financially support this stuff
did
or
she financially
actively,
support it,
or did she actively commit violence?
Or did Clarence Thomas actively give any support behind it, from this?
He dissented on one opinion. As far as I can tell, everybody's upset about one opinion where it didn't make a difference.
Right.
If he was showing his loyalty, it was a pretty stupid and shitty way to do it, you know?
Well, and that's just it, is that, like, that's why I'm saying, like, the whole, vetting spouses, as well as the candidate, is just going to be, it's a lot of extra work that nobody's actually going to do,
And their kids, by the
because
way.
all they're going to do is go, well, do a vote red or do a vote blue? And
That's
that's
right.
really all it boils down to, is that, the spouse isn't the one that's, running the Supreme Court, isn't the one that's writing decisions. So the
Mm-mm,
idea
she's the one giving blowjobs for decisions.
so the idea that,
Well,
Clarence
they.
Thomas would be impeached for Jenny Thomas acting like Jenny Thomas,
Yeah.
is it's
Well,
really
I mean,
dumb,
she
and
is
it's
who
going to get
she
people.
is.
Absolutely. And whatever.
If a spouse doesn't go above the radar, if they stay under the radar and they're just a basic spouse, that's cool. If they get up and start high Hitlering in front of the Supreme Court, then we got to pay attention, right? She didn't
Absolutely.
do that. She didn't do that. Like she didn't do
Right.
that. But I'm saying there's a point where they come above water and you got to be like, hey, stop. You
But then
know?
in that but then in that realm, then the question becomes, is, can you impeach somebody based off the actions of their spouse? And my answer is going
Oh
to be
no.
absolutely no.
But
There's no way to do it.
we judged Judge Jackson on her husband, the surgeon, sitting behind her, crying over supporting her, right? That was so great. He's such a wonderful guy.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
I think we are judging people that way.
We do
And
judge people.
we judged Biden on Hunter. And that's crazy because Biden wasn't a coke addict that traveled the world making money so he could put it up his nose. You know what I mean?
Right.
And Biden, that doesn't make Biden better or worse. You know, like Hunter lost a brother. Hunter had a tragic life. Hunter was going through his own shit. And if he needed drugs to numb himself until he figured out how to process that, good for you, Hunter. But we still judge him for it.
It's, yeah, and this is one of those things where, as much as you hate to say it, like, if there really is something there,
Mm-hmm.
then you have to trust that the system is not going to give special treatment to anybody, as it shouldn't. And this is where,
Yeah.
perhaps things like appointing, for example, the head of the DOJ is maybe not something that should be done, but that, the people vote on, for example,
I would love
because
that.
because if something does come up with a president, my idea is that I don't want somebody who is appointed by the president to be like, yeah, I was appointed by this person and I investigated them and I've determined that they've done nothing wrong.
Or
You know,
worse, hey, I'm the DOJ's from the opposing, and I don't want to investigate them because I don't want to cause waves.
right. And that's just it is that I really do think that, in a case like that, perhaps, we need to be voting on who is the head of the Department of Justice,
I really like that.
simply because, if you're going to hold power accountable, power cannot be held accountable when it is appointing power
I
underneath
have
of it.
I think I've always advocated for the DOJ being a um fourth pillar of the government, executive, legislative. We need enforcement. Like we got to
Hmm.
take it out of the hands of the president. He has gathered so much power. Both sides every
Hmm.
time have gathered more and more power, and it's
Hmm.
it's getting to be an issue with these executive orders, right?
Hmm.
Like, because then people are like, Joe Biden, why don't you eliminate student loans, 50,000? You can with executive order. And he's like, I don't want to. Like, like that should be something decided by Congress, right? Like,
Hmm.
so I don't know. We got to stop asking the president to trim our toenails for us and do it ourselves.
Hmm. Yep.
Man. So inflation's here, Jeffrey.
It's been here.
And yeah, I know. And companies are battling inflation not by losing a little bit of profit, but they're actually creating smaller products, like
Shrinkflation is what it's called.
shrinkage. Yeah, like
Yeah, we're
20
we're suffering from
20.
shrinkage.
So 20 pieces, 20 squares of Charmin toilet paper a year are taken off the roll, right? Just to save. Five fewer Doritos are actually put in a bag to save money. Gatorade went from 32 ounces to 28-ounce bottles in a new bottle design and didn't lower the price. Like they're putting candy bars in variety packs a little smaller than if you bought them individually.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's called shrinkation. Did you have you
Shrinkflation. Yep.
shrinkflation? God damn. And spell check doesn't even consider that a word yet, but that's
Nope.
gross, isn't it?
Good
They've
old
done that
shrinkage.
forever, right? They've
Oh
done
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
forever. I mean, if you've ever bought a Big Mac, you know that every time they put them on sale, that those patties get a little smaller,
Yeah,
right?
and that's the thing is like there's the companies have found that there's a certain tolerance level to spending on a product, but
Mm-hmm.
that tolerance level changes when you change the size of the product. So it's really interesting and it's really annoying.
It's
Um,
really gross in this time. I want to say, like during normal times, you can try that because there's fair competition. But
mm,
when there's supply chain shortages and consume like products that are short, and like with everything going on right now coming out of the pandemic to price gouge and profiteer like this, so that
mhm.
you're taking the shareholder side. I just think you should make shorter commercials that say we're still here, we love you, our prices are lower. Like that's how I think you should be handling a crisis, not by saying we're going to take 20 less squares of toilet paper off the roll and charge you more. Like this is just gross to me. And I just wanted to bring it up so that people could look at their products and go, oh, fuck yeah, my Nutty Buddy's smaller. You can
Well,
always
that's
tell because the packaging is bigger for a little while until they redesign the packaging, but they always use the last packaging up with the new product. So you'll find a smaller product in a bigger package
right.
until they redesign.
Well, that's where everything is like
It's gross.
everything is going to be a little bit different. But like for example, like we saw this with meat, for example, where they did smaller packages of meat and they didn't raise,
Mm-hmm.
but you didn't have the same bulk pricing, so you kind of got this weird shrinkflation in that you know it didn't really change, but it did change, because you were getting less of it, but you were still being charged at the same rate. And so rather than buy one big package, you had to decide if the smaller package worked or if you had to buy two packages, for
Right.
example.
Or bulk
um
up to a Costco membership and pay
right.
less for a,
Right.
paid.
You saw that you saw that with meat, especially when you had suppliers that
Yeah,
they had too many people sick and they were getting and they were out.
because we have
Um,
two meat suppliers in America.
well, three. Let's not shortchange it.
Okay, three.
Fucking bad. Um, but the reality was is that you have all these organizations that do this kind of stuff where they change up their packaging structure. Like for example, for I want to say it's like hot dog buns come in a pack of 8 and hot dogs come in a pack of 10, so you have to
Right.
buy two packages of hot dogs, and so you're constantly going back and forth between, do I have enough hot dogs and do I have enough hot dog buns? Hot dogs are fucking disgusting, but bratwurst on the other hand, because like for me, you know, 5 brats in a package, 8 buns, so I got to buy 2 packages, but then I got to buy, and then I got to, and it's just a
Yep. Yep.
balancing act.
Or it's
Like,
6 buns, right? Like, because even brat buns come in sixes
so
or
it's
fours,
all,
but brats come in fives. I didn't even think about that. God damn
so
it.
so it's really frustrating because you're constantly having to go back and forth between that concept of, it's like these complementary goods, they're purposefully taking them and giving them weird numbers so that way you're
Yeah.
constantly having to go back and forth and buy it, rather than it's like, yeah, I need 12 bratwursts for this party I'm throwing, 3 of these and 2 of these. Boom, good to go.
Boom. Exactly. They could make it easier. They have no reason not to. They could make our shopping experience better. I tell my friend all the time, there's a movie, Mr. Mom, right? And Terry Garr is an executive that's coming up with a commercial for a tuna manufacturer. And they decide to use a simple background. And the guy says, we're the tuna. We're going to lower prices because times are tough. And we'll raise prices back up when everything's better for everybody. That's it. That was the commercial. And I was like, I just want somebody to do that. Just like Oreo, a 5-second commercial that says, we're still here, like,
Right.
and then lower your price $1.
Yeah, as much as I would love to see that, you
I would
won't see
love to
that.
see that. I would be loyal to a company that helped me out in a time of crisis.
Hmm.
I would pay slightly more for Oreos if they lowered the price during the pandemic so that we could all enjoy Oreos. Because again, everybody knows what an Oreo is. We already know if we like them or not. They don't need to spend 50 million a year in advertising. They
Oh
just
man,
don't. Sorry,
I just
Budweiser. We
remember.
already know if we like you, Budweiser.
That's true.
You don't need another commercial to tell me you're here with yet another product.
All I know is that, like, I remember at one point you couldn't find Oreos on the shelves because everybody was stuck at home and decided,
Uh-huh.
fuck it, Oreos it is.
Right. And if they had just lowered the price $1, that would have been amazing. If they would have just put a commercial out that said, "Ah, pandemic, that sucks. You're out of work. Have some cheaper Oreos on us."
Would have been nice, but no. Instead,
Yeah,
but even then, you just had everybody panic buying everything, and so
that's true.
you just ended up with people literally hoarding Oreos. My personal favorite during the pandemic was when they started limiting the sales of Hot Pockets.
Oh, wow.
I was like, Hot Pockets?
Mm.
Really?
What am I going to make love to now? I'm all alone.
Oh God, every thrust is a different temperature.
What's that Jim Gaffigan joke? My favorite is the hot pocket with a hot pocket in it.
Oh, good old Hot Pockets. Every bite's a different temperature.
Hot pocket. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's like if you follow the directions, then only part of this will be hot and the other part will be ice fucking cold still.
And those
That was
things got smaller too, by the way. You
yeah, they
know,
did.
I I I miss the 70s for the unadulterated size of the products. Like they didn't try and limit it in any way. So food has gotten smaller and smaller. People, you don't realize that honeycombs used to be able to fit one in your mouth because they were so big and they would gouge the fuck out of it. Every honeycomb was like the size of my thumb, and now they're
Hmm.
they're small and tasty for kids. Ah, come on, Devi. Really? No? No
No,
radical monogamy, no radical. Anyway, so
not. I think it caused. I think it caused Devi enough of a stroke that they went back to bed.
yeah, I agree. So 1 in 8 Texas mail-in ballots was rejected, by the way, in the first election under the new GOP rulings. Whew, I'm glad,
Well,
happy to get that out of my note. It's true. Voter suppression exists.
yep.
Let's see. It's not a big lie. Republicans just hate brown people. Let's
I'm
see.
I'm curious. Out of all of those rejected ballots, how many were GOP voters?
I know, me too. Me too. Because if you don't think seniors in Texas are Republicans, you're fucking crazy. And that's half of them. The other half are disabled people. Also,
Right.
Republicans. I had for 2 weeks, I tried to get away from this, but it's been on my mind. People are really upset, Jeffrey. And it's like, everybody's like, we're going to bring in 100,000 Ukrainians. And everybody's like, that's great. Can we get some of these brown people in too?
No.
And and no, but everybody's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course, we need a more inclusive immigration process. But right now, we're working on this. And those brown people are like dying. And I don't understand because I seem to be the only one literally in the country that cares about this. Like, even immigrants that I know are like, no, we need a secure border. I got here, but I don't want them getting in here. That's who I ran from, you know?
And and that's the thing is like, and we've talked about this ad
I know at
nauseum.
nauseum. That's why I didn't want to bring it up, but it was part of
It's figuring out a way for people to come in and work and be able to keep track of them is
yeah.
the easy part. Whether or not they should be citizens, yeah, that's a whole different discussion. Whether or not they
Mhm.
even want to be citizens, I mean, oftentimes that's where you're jumping to is that they're just coming in here to stay, and oftentimes that's really not the case. They're coming in here to work and then they're going home.
Right.
In
I
which
just think
case,
there'd be a more
whatever.
equitable way of doing this by saying there's 130 planets, there's 130 countries. We're going to allow 5 million in a year divided by that, and that's what we do. And we just do it. We just process people. People are dying just as fast as immigrants are coming in. It's not like we're overflowing the country. It's a
Honestly,
sieve,
I think it should be more tied to the number of job openings we have versus unemployment rate.
So like Australia.
Yeah, so like for like right now where it's something like we have, I want to say it's like 3 or 4 million people out of work and 11 million job openings. That means we've got a severe deficit of 7 million unopened positions.
Yeah, because people have been dying, but we haven't been bringing people in to replace them. Kids
We
don't
haven't.
do that for 18 years. You can have 200 million kids, but they're not going to be able to work for 18 years. We need people to fill in. Those
Well,
are immigrants.
and so for me, like it's maybe you don't, for example, you allow 3.5 or 4 million immigrants into the country. Like there's a better way to do it, but
Hmm.
at the same time it's like, you know you can, the system is
Yeah.
broken. Neither of them actually want to fix it. They just love bitching about it, and that's
Yep.
pretty much where it's going to sit.
And our friend Holly Cooper that brought us the story last week got into Berkeley. So congratulations to her. That's
Hey, good job,
freaking
Ollie.
cool. I love that. All right. So 8 House Republicans voted against suspending normal trade with Russia and Belarus. Wow, I love cleaning up this list, buddy. You know what I mean? Marjorie
And
Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, Bobert, Massey, of course, Andy Biggs, and a whole bunch of them. Just they said
things that
we're
don't
Russian
surprise me.
sympathizers, and that led me to. So here's the thing: there's a plan for white people to rule over brown people. Now in America, they wanted to do this, but then something happened. Donald Trump lost, and the Republicans put it on the back burner. But yet some Republicans said no, we're going for white domination, and we're siding with Russia because they're white. They're not white, by the way. There is no white utopia on the planet. Russia is full of just as many minorities as the United States. You just don't hear about them because their dictator's a dick, you know?
Right. And I mean realistically too, it's like there's
Yeah.
there's always this balance of, what does the free market look like versus what does a restricted market look like? And you have
Mm-hmm.
to understand that money flowing to the government is weapons and ammo that is being sent to, kill Ukrainian citizens. And so
True.
as much as I, I'm a free market person and I don't want to restrict trade with necessarily any nation, at the same time too, there comes a point where you have to restrict trade in certain situations because the damage that they're doing is unequivocal.
Yep. Yep. And it's there. It reached a point to where it wasn't going back to normal. If
Right.
if Putin had just gone after Donbass or tried to get a land bridge to Crimea, we would have understood it. But to bomb the fuck out of a country using cruise, what are those hypersonic missiles? Because you're
They've
running out
only
of
used
regular
one. They
missiles.
only used one.
Two, two,
Oh, did
two.
they finally use a second one?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's not a brilliant idea for them. Thanks for the data, Russia.
But that's the thing, is that they're running out of normal bombs. Like, they only have so much artillery, and if they're running out of it, they got to use what they have. They're not, because they can't buy more. They can't make more. So eventually, they're going to go to chemical weapons because that's all they have left in their arsenal. You know?
Ukraine is the only country that doesn't produce its own tanks that has somehow been in a war
Yeah.
and managed to increase the number of tanks that they have.
And Joe,
Ukrainian farmers are about to become one of the world's superpowers.
and if you want to talk about a Joe Biden gaffe, how about saying we will retaliate in kind to chemical weapons being used in Ukraine? What are you saying? You're going to use chemical weapons in Russia if they use them in Ukraine? Like, that guy's weird.
Meanwhile, Russia be over there, Putin really be over there like we're Novichok full of stuff.
Right. That's all we have
Uh,
left, by the way, because we ran out of bullets.
I
We
mean,
dropped dumb bombs on people, and now we got to use smart bombs because we don't have anything left. You won't let us buy it, So I don't know. I love the people of Ukraine, right? Like, I love what they're doing. I believe they want to do this themselves, and then they ain't gonna want to be in the European Union. They're gonna be like, we're Ukraine, bitch. We actually fought for our sovereignty.
I
But
think
I want to say I really hate in the media that every 15 minutes they have to put a crying refugee on the screen, because that's not the war. You know what I mean? And
mhm.
even Zelensky's like, we want to show how tough we are. So stop showing this, like, these crying. Of course they're crying. But Jeffrey, if you just got bombed out of your town and were running away because you lost your kids and your moms to a war, would you want some news media outlet sticking a microphone in your face while you're crying and saying, "Hey, what happened?" No, it's not. It's not helping the people of Ukraine. It's not helping the message of Ukraine. We need to stop it. It's done by um people that don't want to go into the war but still want to
Mhm.
report on it. Hey, go to the border and talk to refugees. No, go further in and talk to the soldiers.
Right.
It's been tough on me because I'm not watching the news about Ukraine because of that. Because
Right.
every 5 minutes there's a crying refugee, and I know they're crying, but no story's going to be worse than that fucking pregnant lady that died crawling out of a building. No,
Mhm.
there's there's no story is going to be worse than 300 people dying in a theater.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know, like,
Until somebody uses chemical, biological, or nuclear weapons,
yeah.
it's one tragedy after another, and the idea that they're not targeting citizens is bullshit. We all know it.
Well, yeah. And it's weird that, like, Estonia and Poland and Moldova, they have a certain approach. They want a very strong approach to Russia, but yet, Germany and France, they're taking more of the passive approach, and it's so the people that are threatened by Russia are like, we need to fix this now. And the other people are like, yeah, we'll sanction, see how it goes.
We're far enough away that it shouldn't
Yeah,
bother us, right?
right. But I want to see us go in there and just destroy everything. Like, what's the red line going to look like? If
Well, they
Vladimir
said that
Putin, if he uses chemical weapons, what happens? What happens? Do we go in? What do we do? How do we address it? So there is nowhere we can go. He's going to do what he does until he reaches out of Ukraine. And he knows if he stays in Ukraine, we're not going to do anything, you know?
and yeah, and that's the tough part is that this wait and see approach is definitely going to be something that
Hmm.
it's not going to be fun.
And it's amazing that, Putin ended, or wow, that's a Freudian slip. That Biden used the end of his speech to call for regime change and then said, "No, that's not what I called for." Yeah, that's what we're calling for. Like,
The man can't stay in power. Okay, what else would
right.
you call that?
I mean, that's our history. That's America's history, regime change.
Hmm.
So you should be proud of it. You can be okay with this. Is the
Own
one
that.
time it's okay to say you're not causing the regime change, but you think it should happen. I think it should happen. I think Putin should be removed from power. Do I think he should be killed? No, I think he should be imprisoned and held accountable in The Hague.
Absolutely. No,
Oh,
that'll never happen though. He'll blow his brains out in a bunker before that happens.
maybe, maybe. I don't know. Like, I think we thought Vladimir Putin was really, really smart because he was in control of a giant country we need to work with. I just think we said he was smart because he got to the position he got in, but I don't think he's as smart as I've never thought he knew as much about democracy as people like Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton. Like I think he has an outsider's perspective on democracy, but the moves he's making are based on autocratic decisions. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like he doesn't understand a leader saying it's not about me, it's about us. He's like, no, me. Like in the end, everybody is decadent. Everybody, like we need our caviar here. We'll never like strip them and isolate them because we want what they offer.
Mhm.
That's his belief. So, ugh,
Well,
gross.
and there were so many miscalculations on his part. Like, for example, he didn't, on top of the sanctions, like he didn't think that they would be as crippling as they are. He also
Right,
didn't think that that private companies would, do what they did either.
right. No, that's what I'm saying. He thought people were going to go over profits. He didn't think Shell was going to leave $15 billion in the air and leave. That he didn't think McDonald's was going to shut down all of their locations in Russia. In fact, he said, "I'll seize your property if you leave." And McDonald's was like, "Fuck you. We'll take you to court in Russia." you know?
Yeah, one day when you're ousted.
Yeah. I just think he's in power till the war is over. And I think his end goal is to take Mariupol so he can get a land bridge from Russia to the sea and maybe to Crimea. I'm not quite sure, but I think he desperately wants Mariupol and he's bombing everything else until we give it to him?
I think he's looking at another connection to the Donbass.
Right, right.
Mm,
That's what I'm saying. He's trying strategically for certain land, but he's bombing far away to keep the army scattered because we have to defend. I mean, not me. I don't like
all right.
they have to defend Kyiv and all these other Western areas and so they can't concentrate their forces. But man, Ukraine is like surrounding and defeating Russians all over the place. How many is it? Like 40,000 have deserted, died, or been injured. Like
Something like that.
10,000 deaths, 16,000
I want to say
injured.
that 16,000 dead is where they supposedly were at.
Okay. But then there's the deserters and they
Hmm.
like they've gotten like here's the weird thing. Russia's not using secure communications. That's why they haven't taken down all the communication towers. I mean, that's how bad of an army they are. They're using cell phones and tanks to radio positions and transmissions. It's crazy, man. And Ukraine has picked up on all of that stuff.
It's really
Fuck.
weird.
It is weird. There's just such an unprepared army. Just it makes me
It's
feel
so
really good.
bizarre.
I mean, I don't want to say that, and it's in a morbid way. Like Russia having a shitty army makes me feel better.
Hmm.
Fuck
No,
yeah.
it's. I mean, that's really their power play is the fact that they've got a ton of chemical, biological, and nuclear weapons. That's it.
Right. And
Outside of
we
that,
gotta.
it's that's their army can't handle.
Oh, they
Clearly.
can't. No, the mercenaries can barely handle it, right? And we got to remember that this version of this Ukraine is part two to Syria, like
Mhm.
right? Like how many Syrians had to have run away from Syria because of Putin and his chemical weapons and him and all that shit. And they're still sitting there waiting to get into countries. And now we have Ukrainians building up. All of these people are displaced because of Putin, because of one man, you
Mhm.
know? It's gross. I mean, I'm just wondering at what point bombers just take out the entire Kremlin, like
Ooh,
just
yeah,
fly in there one day and just bomb the fuck out of it and leave.
that'll be a nuclear
Yeah.
war, and that'll be
Yeah, I
me
know.
going out and doing exactly what I said earlier, going out
Yep.
naked with a beer and a folding chair and a bratwurst on a stick and pointing everything at the mushroom cloud.
Well, somebody give me 3 days notice if aliens are about to come, a comet's about to hit, or if we're about to bomb Russia so that I can get over to Seattle and be with Jeffrey. Because if he's going to be barbecuing naked, waiting, eating hot dogs, I'm there. I'm there with you, buddy.
What can I say? Chaos reigns supreme.
Chaos reigns supreme. Let's see. Five. What? Oh, I'm back at the Dorito thing again.
Doritos.
Oh, I love it. So there's 5 steps for forgiving somebody who isn't sorry. Sorry. Wait, let's say that again. Five ways to forgive somebody that isn't sorry. Wow, why do I want to say sour?
How do you forgive somebody for not being sour?
Thank you. Expand your definition of forgiveness. You know what I mean? How about that? It's a gift. It's not a gift for them, it's a gift for you. It's really for you. How about that? What do you think?
hmm oh, absolutely. Like I said, it's like, it's about me clearing my mental space. Just because you forgive somebody, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to continue to subject yourself to them.
That's right. Take the time to use forgiveness to think about the barriers, the I can't think of the word, the borders, you know, where you're going to keep
Boundaries.
people, the bound. Thank you. I've been trying to think of that word for 4 hours. Boundaries. Think of the boundaries that you're going to put up with these people that have hurt you so they can't hurt you again.
Yep.
And that will help, because if you make a plan, you can forgive. You don't have to do it all right away. Forgiveness comes in its own time, despite your want or need for it to happen. But
hmm
creating a plan so you don't get hurt again, for me, allows me to forgive people more easily.
Yep.
Nice. I love it. That's it. That's all I got, buddy. Well, I have
Nice.
more. There's five. There's five of them. I wasn't going to go through it all. We just summarized pretty well,
Right.
so that's about it. Um, wow. Do you have any just the tips? I love this. Hey,
Ooh,
what's a 2-4? You said music got you through life, and I wanted to ask you what the fuck a 2-4 is, because all I'm doing is 4-4, and I want to know what a 2-4 is.
two
Beat,
four.
beat. You're a drummer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want a two
So
four beat.
2 4 is basically so 4 4 is like quarter note is one beat and there's four beats per measure. 2 4 is still that a quarter note is one beat, but there's two beats per measure.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
so some people call it, there's a number of different ways that you can do it. Some people call it cut time, some people call it march time. It's because it's a 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2.
Nice.
That's what it is.
Okay. How's Uncle Tom?
He's doing all right.
Yeah.
It's still struggling, you know. But that's all there is. It's going to be a long road for him.
Okay. That question has been on my mind for 4 weeks too. Every Saturday night I'm like, ask about Uncle Tom, and I always
Yeah,
forget.
yeah, it's still going to be a long road for him, unfortunately.
Okay.
So
And finally we'll wrap up on COVID. And we didn't ruin a whole episode by starting it with it.
perfect. Just ruin the end.
Just ruin the end. Yeah, I mean, cases are up in the UK, cases are up in China. Do you think it's something we have to worry about here?
There's always the potential, but because it ran so rampant here, um, there, the original variants, there's just not enough difference between, the other variants like BA 1.1 and BA 2 that like we may see cases rise slightly, but it's not going to be like an Omicron level spike.
Okay.
And most likely it's going to be people who are severely immunocompromised that could get it, not necessarily, and most likely once again the people who are unvaccinated that still haven't gotten COVID.
So the unvaccinated still need to worry.
Absolutely, the
Okay.
vaccines are still highly effective,
For
and
most for most people.
for most people. And I mean, like now you've got they're looking at doing a fourth shot for the older generation, and at this point, like what they've showed for the most part for like younger people is that there was no additional benefit
Right.
for
There's a top off. You can only fill yourself with so many
Mhm,
antibodies, right?
right. And so even then you would be better off having a targeted booster like an Omicron specific booster,
Cool.
which case there's the potential that we could see that by fall. So
I love it.
you would at least have that. And if the next variant is based off of Omicron, or kind of like how Delta was,
Mm-hmm.
close enough to the original that the vaccines were still effective, highly effective, with a
Yeah.
2 dose regimen. That might very well be a case, but it's you run into the realm of it's hard to predict where things head.
Yeah,
um
I understood why cases were going up in China, because they sheltered themselves from it, so they didn't have any real resistance to it. But the UK confused me, because they actually had pretty good vaccination and boost. Well, I
Not
think we're
really on
doing,
booster rates.
yeah, now that I think about it, we're doing better on boosters than the UK.
Yep. And
Ugh,
where Omicron, was severely tamped down was because of boosters.
yeah,
Um,
good
and
point.
so I mean, realistically, it's like, it would be nice to see an Omicron specific booster, but I honestly think that more likely than not, we'll see something come closer to the fall.
The pills. I think it'll be the
Oh,
pills,
the pills are already out. The
Yeah,
pills
but
are
I
already
think I
available.
think they'll customize those more for people because there's
Nope.
such vaccine rhetoric going around.
The pills, maybe they might customize the messaging, but not the pills themselves, because the
Right,
pills
right.
target the protease. They
Yeah,
don't.
they do what they do. I'm just, yeah, they might tailor the message a little more to
Mhm.
the anti-vaxxers, which I think is really stupid, but whatever. Wow, from alien penises to boosters that people don't want. This is public access America. Did you have any just the tips before we go?
Make sure you take your alien penis booster.
I like it. Yes. Perfect. Well, this has been Public Access America. Hey, Jeffrey,
Yeah.
I don't know if I tell you enough how much I really appreciate y'all over there.
Oh, you do. You do tell me. And I appreciate that you tell me.
I do. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Thank you to everybody else. We're going to go now and have some fun because it's fucking sunny and 76 here.
It's going to be sunny and 65 here, so I'm stoked.
Oh, I wish I had 65. All right. Love you. Love you, everybody listening. Bye.
Nah.
Yay. All right.
Alrighty. Time to go have some fun.
Yeah. Yeah, my roommate left. He's been working. So I'm like, yeah, let's get out. I want to have some fun.
Perfect.